The silence was the first thing that got me. Not a friendly quiet, but a hungry one. I pulled my beat-up Jeep onto the track leading to Blackwood Ridge, a place locals swore was haunted, and felt that silence clamp down. Around my skull, I've always needed the mountains, the solitude, but the air here felt heavy, ancient, and judgmental. I set up camp by a narrow, rushing creek. As the sun bled out of the sky, I ate fast and got into my tent, eager for the perfect, uninterrupted sleep only deep wilderness can provide. It was about 2 a.m. when I woke up. It wasn't a snap of a twig or a bear rooting around the fire pit. It was a sound that seemed to defy the natural world, a rhythmic, heavy thudding. Thud, thud, thud. It was faint, coming from the upper slopes, but it was relentless. It sounded huge and slow, like a machine dragging something massive and wet through soft earth. The rhythm was too regular, too deliberate to be an animal. I lay there, heart pounding, listening for 10 minutes. The sound moved slowly, keeping that unnerving tempo, heading higher into the dark. I eventually convinced myself it was just strange echoes, something to do with the wind, and forced my eyes shut. I slept with my knife under my pillow, which I'd never done before. The next morning, the bright sun mocked my fear, but I couldn't shake the feeling. Near the creek, the grass beside my old fire pit was matted down in a large, messy circle, not just walked on, but repeatedly pressed. It looked like the imprint of something heavy being set down and lifted over and over. I decided to hike to the ridge peak. 2 hours of brutal climbing later, I found it, an unnatural, ugly clearing. The trees abruptly stopped, and nothing, not even moss, grew in the circular patch of bare gray soil. In the center stood a hulking, lichen-covered stone, and on the clearing's edge, half swallowed by the pines, was a derelict cabin, rotting, windowless, and silent. The moment I stepped onto the bare dirt, the noise stopped. Everything, I mean everything. The cicadas, the distant breeze, the call of a crow, it all vanished. The world became my own roaring heartbeat. It was the loudest, most suffocating silence I have ever experienced. I hurried away from the cabin, but as I skirted it, I kicked something. It was an old axe head, buried in the moss. I picked it up. It was heavily corroded, but the blade was still wickedly sharp. Etched into the rust were 3 deep vertical score marks, 3 scratches. As I stared at them, a wave of profound, arctic dread washed over me. I dropped the thing like a viper and ran. I didn't hike. I scrambled down the mountain, driven by a terror I couldn't rationalize. Back at my site, the comfort of the creek was gone. I felt exposed. Instead of setting up camp, I tore my tent down, bundled my sleeping bag, and crawled 50 yards into a dense, wet thicket of rhododendrons, hoping the heavy foliage would hide me. I sat there, knife in hand, watching my original camp spot. Midnight came. The air was dead calm. Then I heard the voice. It was a low, guttural, wet sound, a croaking whisper. It wasn't loud, but it seemed to vibrate inside my skull. It wasn't words exactly, just a slurry, liquid sound, like mud churning. It was behind my old site, but also somehow enveloping the entire clearing. And then it stepped out. It emerged from the black shadow line of the hemlocks and walked right onto the flattened ground where my tent had been. It was easily 7 or 8 feet tall, impossibly thin, and terrifyingly wrong. Its skin was the color of wet, gray granite, glistening faintly. It was naked, but didn't look human. Its limbs were too long, too loosely hinged, and its face, where a face should have been, there was only smooth gray bone, save for two huge black, oily orifices that sucked in the faint starlight. It began to walk the perimeter of the flattened ground, slowly, jerkily. As it walked, it began to repeat the sound from the first night. Thud, thud, thud. It wasn't dragging anything. It was its foot. It lifted its massive, three-toed appendage and drove it into the earth, repeating the slow, deliberate rhythm, a sound of search. It reached the exact spot where my sleeping bag had been lying. It stopped. The croaking whisper came again, louder now, right on the edge of my hiding place. It was trying to sound like a human name, a distorted echo. Ethan. I froze, unable to move, unable to breathe. The air suddenly stank of sulfur and rot. The creature lowered one of its impossible arms, a bony talon, and plunged its hand into the flattened earth. It pulled up a clump of dirt and grass, brought it to its smooth head, and seemed to sniff it right where its nose should have been. Then it tilted its head. It turned. It stared, or whatever it did, directly at the dense rhododendron thicket I was hiding in. It hadn't seen me. I knew it hadn't. It was scenting me, listening. Ethan ran hundreds of miles, abandoning his gear and his peace of mind, only to realize that his escape from Blackwood Ridge was an illusion. The featureless creature in the deep Appalachian darkness wasn't just searching for him, it was scenting him. And when it found the rusted axe head, the one he subconsciously carried away, it left a chilling, final score, 4 deep scratch marks. This story isn't about escaping a monster. It's about realizing that some horrors aren't bound by geography. They leave a mark and follow you home, turning your own sanctuary into the most terrifying place on earth. So the next time you venture out into the woods, especially those silent, ancient corners where the wildlife goes quiet, remember Ethan's warning. The true terror isn't stepping on something you can't see. It's the cold, slow realization that something in the dark has already noticed you, calculated your presence, and whispered the chilling promise right into your ear. I know the way home now. If you've ever felt that absolute spine-crawling dread in the wilderness, let me know in the comments below. And if you dare to hear more stories where the silence listens back, hit that like button and subscribe